All right, folks. So welcome back. In this episode, we are going to now add lighting to our scene, and then also get ready to prepare for the final episode, which will show you how to render elements out of Maya. And so, first things first, we've got our let's make sure we all have our scene open. So I'm going to go to File, Set Project first. Go to where I have it saved. So I'm going to go look, blocky character, hit set. Then I'm going to do file, open scene, and I'm looking for the last one that we did, blocky 7, and just hit OK on everything. See if this will load up. It doesn't. I'll just go over here to my texture, hit color, and hit reload. See if that helps speed it up at all. And then in the previous episode, we started to add animation in. So let's say you've gotten your character fully animated, whatever the scene needs to be. Well, in this case, I just made a simple walk cycle. So let's go ahead and do up in the top right where it says workspace. Let's go ahead and make sure you're on general and then tell it to reset current so that it puts everything back so that you'll see exactly what we have here. Now, first things we'll look at is over here in the top left, I'm going to click the drop down and let's set it to rendering. And when you do that, you get these options in the toolbar up here. Now I'm going to go to render settings. In here, I want to make sure we are using render using Arnold renderer. We will come back to this in the final video when we're working in Maya. So we'll come back to that in the next video. But I do want to go down here to image size, and I'm going to change it from preset 540 to full 1280. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up. So you'll see it sets it to 1024 by 1280. You can come in here and choose a preset, or you can create a custom size depending on what you are trying to set your image size to render out as. So I'm just going to go with the full 1280, and I'm going to close this for a minute, but then I want to come over here and do create camera, camera. And that's going to create this camera here. Now, if I go to quad view here, I can then pick one of these views because I like my perspective for this case, so I can move it. And I think I'm going to use my top view, or actually, no, let's use my front view because I'm going to be moving my camera sideways and such. So let's use my top view. I'm going to go up here to panel, perspective, camera. Now, that is what the camera sees right now. It's staring at his feet. So I'm going to grab my move tool, go ahead and pull it backwards, pull it up some. And right now, with the way my animation is, I'm going to go ahead right here on my camera panel. I'm going to go ahead and turn on my textured view. It would show as if it's walking towards. Now, I don't really want it walking towards the camera. I'm going to actually have it kind of camera set up off to the side. And let me click back on this panel so I can see exactly. Yeah, I'll have him kind of walk past the camera. That'll work. Um, so you want to get your camera into position, and you can set up cameras all over the place. I mean, if you have different camera angles you're going to need to render out and such, you can set them up wherever you need. And what you wind up doing is Right now, so I don't accidentally move that, I'm going to go to View, Lock Camera, and that will keep it from being able to move. So I know this camera view is going to stay in that spot. Then I'm going to go back up to Render Settings, Render Settings, and I want to change this from Renderable Camera to Camera 1 instead of Perspective. And I'll just hit Close. All right, so we've added a camera. Now we need some lights, because if I go up here, I'm just going to click on my camera view. If I go up here to Arnold and I tell it to render, it's going to take a moment. Okay, so it finally rendered mine. Yours may have taken a little time too. It really just depends. Um, but as you can see, it is solid black. That is because we have no lights. Just like if you were filming in a studio and such, in the case of a filming in a studio or on a live set, if there is a little light there, sunlight, whatever, you're going to have that light to work with. In this case, we have no lights. So we are going to set those up. And so what I'm going to do is for now, I'm going to keep this window open, but I'm going to drag it off to the side. And then what we're going to do first, because we're working with the Arnold renderer gives you a lot of abilities to do different type of lighting effects if you set them up correctly. So first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to set up a 3-point lighting system with this little guy here. And then we'll add in one environmental light. So what I'm going to do is go to Create, or no, sorry, Arnold Lights, and I'm going to choose a area light. So that's going to bring up in my outliner this area light. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this the key light. So your key light is your main source of light on your object. And you'll notice it puts it down here if I'm looking at my perspective. I'm going to go ahead and drag it backwards some. My computer is starting to lag a little bit. So then I'm going to pull it up as well. And the reason it is lagging a little bit is because it's trying to, in my render view, it's trying to render at the same time. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is try to get this guy set up so we can look at the render view real fast, see the difference it's starting to make, and then I'm going to probably close it out. So I'm going to move it up to the side of my character. Over in the rotate X under my channel box, I'm going to set it to, I think let me see if it's 45. Yeah, 40, no, sorry, negative 45, because right now it's aiming upward. You'll see this little, if I rotate in perspective, this little line, that's telling you which way it's going. So I'm going to angle it up above him. Then I'm going to set the rotate Y to negative 45 as well. And these numbers are not set in stone. You will set up according to whatever effect you're trying to get from your final piece. We're just setting up a real basic 3-point lighting system. And I forgot to do this at the beginning like we've been doing. I'm going to go ahead and do a file save scene as. We're going to call this blocky-8. That way we don't override our previous file. So blocky-8. Then we've got our key light. Now we got to set some settings for it. So we're going to go to the attribute editor. And in the attribute editor, there's going to be a lot of settings you can adjust for your light. The ones we are going to focus on are the intensity, which for now I'm going to set it to like a 12. 10 to 15 is probably going to be a good number for you. The exposure, we want to mess with that. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and set that to about a 2. And once we get the light set up, I'll kind of go over a couple things about it. Color temperature, I'm going to click this little checkbox. And I'm going to set that to about 5500, which is kind of like daylight. And then make sure this little button here for cast shadows is turned on. So if I pull my renderer back over, you can see we are starting to see our character. So what I'm going to try to do is let's up the intensity some. Let's try to put it at 15, see what that does. And then I'm going to play with the exposure some. So I went down, it got darker. So let's open that up some more. So the higher my exposure, the more light it is allowing in, kind of like the way a camera works. And then the intensity, the higher the number, the brighter the light source. So it doesn't have to be perfect yet because we are working with a 3-point lighting system. If we like that shade that it is giving us on our character, then we're ready to move on to the next light. And so to do that, I'm going to move my render view out of the way real quick. And I'm going to go to my outliner, select my key light, and hit Control D to duplicate. And I'm going to call it fill light. And the fill light is going to be light, not as strong as your key light. And its job is to basically let me pull this back over. Our key light is creating some really dark shadows on this side of our character because it's coming from this direction. I'm going to move my fill light to help lighten up some of those shadows so he doesn't look as dark. So let me move that. I'm going to grab my fill light and I'm going to move it to the opposite side. Now, right now it's facing away. So I'm going to go to my channel box editor and I'm going to set the rotate X to 45 degrees. Oh, wrong way. Let's redo that. Put that back to negative. I changed the wrong one. Let's change the rotate Y to 45 degrees. That way it's aiming the opposite direction. Then I'm going to go back to my attribute editor. And for here, I'm going to set the intensity to about half of what the key light was. And then I'm going to adjust color temperature, move that up to about 6,000. And then for shadow density down here, I'm going to set it to about half. That way it won't make as dark as shadows because the key light should be the one making the majority of the shadows. All right, so now if I pull up my render view, I can see that it is starting to show me some more detail on this side. So if I don't quite like what I see there, I can adjust it. So you can play with those to see if you can get the lighting that you want. Now, the next thing is my character kind of blends into the background. Now, yes, my black background is just solid black, so any of the shadows really make him stand in there. But I'm going to go ahead and move this off. And we are going to create, I'm going to go to Arnold, Lights, Area Light. It's going to put another one here. Zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to pull it backwards behind my character. And right now, if I look in perspective, it's pointing away. So I'm going to go to Channel Box. I'm going to set the rotate Y to 180, which should turn it around. Yeah. Then I'm going to bring it up some. And so over here in the outliner, I'm going to call this backlight. or rim light, either way. What its job is going to be is to create kind of a little halo, not a solid halo, but a little light behind the character to make them stand out from the background. And so I'm going to go try to set the intensity. Let's start out with like 8. See what it looks like. Set the exposure. Let's try 3 because that seemed to work on the others. And then the color temperature, I'm going to set it lower to make it a cooler color than the front one was. Um, so let's see what, pull back over my render view. It's not quite giving the effect that I want, so I'm going to maybe bring it a little closer. And then maybe up the intensity and the exposure a little bit. It's not, I mean, it's getting a little brighter, but not quite what I'm going for, I don't think. So let me just play with the settings and see if I can get something I like. I can see a little bit right there where it's brightening up the backside. If I move it a little closer, yeah, you can see it getting a little brighter there. So play with it. You'll eventually get a lighting that you like. I'll keep playing with it moving forward. But we've got one other light that we're going to add that will lighten up the whole scene. So let me move this off screen. We're going to first, because we haven't done this, I'm going to go up to our poly modeling tab here and create a plane. And then I'm going to grab my scale tool and just scale that thing up really big so that we have a floor for our character to stand on. And if I bring it back over, you'll see it processing, trying to light up the floor because it's going to have shadows, especially if I were to move my camera and I can actually see his feet. I'd see some shadow there. But now I'm going to do a file save just in case anything happens. So save scene. I can rename the plane to be ground. And then I'm going to go to Arnold Lights Skydome. And basically what this is it's basically if we want to consider our scene to have sunlight or something, it creates a massive light that will light up the whole scene. Obviously, it affects our character as well. So we may need to actually go in now and adjust all of our other lights intensity because our lighting may be a little off at this point. So maybe we go in there and adjust it. You can also, just like we did previous, and I'll keep this up here, I'm going to click my Skydome, and in my attribute editor, I'm going to go ahead and lower my intensity because it is very bright. So let's try just doing like 0.3. And so now we start to lower it some. And the Skydome, you can do stuff with the Skydome. You can add some like images to it to create a little more realistic look. We may do that in a later video, but for right now, we're just kind of messing with lighting. But anyways, we've got some lights in there. We've got our Skydome, which is kind of our natural lighted scene piece. So anything we throw in here will all be affected by the Skydome. We've got these all kind of positioned around our character now. They will affect other objects in the scene, just that if other objects are further back, they may not get the full effect of them because based off of your intensity, your exposure and such, it may not light those things up the same way. If they're closer to the light, they may light up a lot differently, brighter, who knows? You have to kind of play with that. But you'll want to get your lighting set up so that in the final video for working in Maya with this little character, we can then render it out. So I'm going to go ahead and do a file save scene. That'll override blocky 8. We've got some lights in here. We've got The intensity, you'll play with that. Again, intensity is how bright is the light. Your exposure is how much light is kind of getting from that light is going to affect the camera. So play around with it, see if you can get lighting that you like. You may set up your camera in a way. I mean, you can also just, if I go here to lock camera and I unlock it, if I choose my camera, I can also rotate my camera if I want it to have a unique kind of shot. And there you can see that my character has shadows on the ground. And one thing I know I don't like about that, let me see if I can move this off real quick. It is humming now, trying to keep up with what I'm trying to do on the computer side. So we want my fill light or my key light to be my main shadow maker. So I'm going to go, and it looks like my backlight is casting a lot of shadows. So I'm going to go in here for my backlight, and I'm going to turn that off. Now, it also looks like my fill light might be drowning out my shadows too much, so I may need to lower the intensity there. So I'm going to play around with that too between now and the next episode. So you may want to mess with your shadow settings for each light to make sure you get the effect that you want, because your key light should be the main lighting source. And so your main shadow should come off of there. The fill light should help dim some of the shadows so that you aren't uh, super dark on one side to where you can't see detail on it and such. So you want to play with that. And then once you get it the way you like, do a file save scene. All right. So we'll see you in the next video.